Hello and welcome to another Source Gaming discussion. I'm your host NantenJex, and joining me today is Wolfman.
Hello.
And Liquid.
Hello.
So we decided to give our thoughts on the latest Pokémon Nintendo Direct for the 6th of June. So, yeah, guys, what do you think of the Direct overall then?
It was alright. We'll probably get into more of the stuff specifically, but I thought, pretty good amount of information for an 8-minute video.
Mm-hmm.
The most exciting thing is Pokken, but we'll get to that a little bit later.
Yeah. And Liquid?
It was more than I honestly expected for an 8-minute video. I was honestly expecting just one or two things, but they managed to shove in a third, so color me impressed in that, I suppose.
Yeah, it's pretty much everything I predicted was going to be, or with some slight changes to how I expected them to be presented. But I will say that they went with the really strange live-action trailer again that Pokemon seems to love to do nowadays.
I like those. I like trailers that tell a story.
Yeah, that's true. Pokemon are very good at doing that. It was just super bizarre.
Yeah. But it's also like, the Switch and Pokemon kind of lend themselves to that, because Pokemon is something that's such, like, an easily understood thing, and the Switch, with the idea of being able to, take it anywhere, also has this, like, very, I think they lend themselves to, we connect with each other over this thing, and so even if we're hundreds of miles apart, we can still, find, like, reconnect.
Yeah. So let's start with the Switch game then, and then that's Pokken Tournament Deluxe got announced, which is a game that I've been saying is coming for months now. I don't know. Were either of you two surprised by it?
Nope. I actually had it on my bingo card for E3 predictions.
Liquid?
I'm not entirely surprised because Wii U ports have been coming left and right for the Switch, so, Pokken Tournament being one of those more popular titles in a way, I'm not entirely surprised, but I was expecting that more for E3, but then this Direct comes around and shoots my predictions to hell.
Yeah, so Pokken, I think it looks quite good. There are a lot of questions I have about it. They added the additional 4 characters they'd added in the arcade, so Empoleon, Scizor, Krogunk, and Darkrai. But now they've also added Decidueye as a Sun and Moon character, and that seems to be about it. It's just the 5 newcomers, which is interesting. It makes me wonder if Decidueye is coming to the arcade version.
To be fair though, like, the 90% of Pokken players, even when you consider how few people bought the Wii U, the vast majority of them would not have ever had access to those characters because they were arcade only, and really Japan is, and a few other, like, smaller markets are the only ones that are really regularly getting access to arcade versions.
Yeah, that's true. So for most people it's like 5 new characters.
Yeah, and I was surprised they actually didn't mention that they were from the arcade.
Yeah, I guess why bother, I guess. I'm wondering what other new stuff there'll be, whether there'll be any new modes, or I think maybe there was a new assist Pokemon. Was Yveltal an assist Pokemon in?
Yes.
They did show off that 3 versus 3 mode. I think that was a new mode.
Oh yeah, there was. Oh yeah, 3 versus 3.
Yeah, kind of a Marvel versus Capcom thing.
I was thinking the exact same thing.
Yeah.
I didn't notice. I didn't realize that was new, but yeah, you're right. Okay, that's cool. There's one thing I am wondering about it. So Pokken for the Wii U required the use of 2 screens for multiplayer, which made it an absolute cumbersome to set up, because if you wanted to play it running at 60 frames per second at its highest resolution, then you had to have 2 Wii U's next to each other and then connected, because it required them both. But presumably that's obviously not the case for the Switch, seeing as you can do 2 players on one Switch, even on the screen. And I'm wondering, if there's going to be any sort of graphical stuff, like will it drop to 30 frames per second if you play it on the portable screen? Because you don't want the frames to drop in a fighting game. I guess the resolution would drop, not the frames. Or have they sorted it out and you can now do split screen? Because that was my big problem with the Wii U version, that there was no proper split screen multiplayer unless you just wanted to play it on trash view.
I mean, we'll get those answers when E3 comes. They said they would have a demo to play and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think what we're going to end up seeing is either like a truncated style thing where you have the two split screens, or they're going to introduce some kind of crazy dynamic camera and just have it be one screen, but that seems really awkward.
Yeah, because that was the issue with Pokken. It swaps views from a 2D fighter to a 3D fighter. So how would you know, especially in the 3D sections, which Pokemon you want to be faced behind?
Yeah.
Like, would it always be player one? Will it be whichever one connects the move? I think it might get a bit awkward, but I expected this if a Switch version came about, and so I'm happy to see it. I hope they fix some of the other issues that I had with Pokken, like the fact that there's no reason to use any other Pokemon except for whichever one you pick as your starter. Because they end up so much more powerful. I hope it's easier to swap between Pokemon.
I never got a chance to play Pokken, so I'm actually looking forward to this, because it'll be nice. Like a lot of games, I guess, or a lot of people who are going to be getting a Switch, there's now an opportunity to play these Wii U games that no one bothered to buy.
Yeah, it comes out right before my birthday as well, so I think I know what I'm getting for that.
Lucky you.
So, let's move on, I guess, to the smallest announcement, and that was that Gold and Silver were coming to the Virtual Console. Not Crystal, funnily enough, just Gold and Silver. So, this was rumoured for a while because I think people found files for Gold, Silver, and Crystal Virtual Console ages ago. I don't remember if they were files on the eShop or if they were like patents filed out or something. There were hints that they were coming, and they were also coming on September 22nd. Just Gold and Silver. Seems to be just like the other Virtual Console ports. They'll have access to Pokemon Bank, which means you can move them to Sun and Moon, and presumably, like Red and Blue, they'll keep all the stats and moves and stuff that they had in those games when they transfer. Liquid, what do you think about the Virtual Console?
I mean, it makes sense. I think it's less exciting than when the original games came out, just because those games are so cute.
But I asked Liquid.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
Sorry. Like, I mean, it's nice. It's nice, but at the same time, I'm honestly not too interested in it, but I could see a lot of people buying it again just to relive those late 90s memories of Gold and Silver. I mean, I might buy into it since Gold and Silver were my first games on the Game Boy, so...
Yeah. And I'm not too bothered by this one, specifically because I can play Heart Gold on my 3DS already, so I don't feel as motivated to go back and get them. I mean, with Red and Blue, I reviewed them, so I got them for free anyway, but I was more tempted to buy them because I never played Fire Red and Leaf Green. But so it was like 20 something years since I last played them. Yeah, that's just me. Any additional thoughts on that, Wolfman?
Honestly, it's pretty much the same thing as everyone else. I'm sorry I interrupted you, Liquid.
No, that's fine.
I mean, Crystal was, the one that I got, and like a lot of people, that ended up being my last Pokemon game for a while until I bought Emerald, years later, and it's just weird to think about, like, Gold and Silver, because they're definitely better games than the originals. They're much more, like, elaborate, they've got much more imagination, or not much more imagination, they've got much more, I think, ability to capitalize on that imagination, but it's, otherwise, they're good, but they don't have quite that, like, pure nostalgic value.
Alright, well, then I guess there was the third announcement of the thing, which is the big, I guess, more controversial one, is the announcement of Pokemon Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon coming to Nintendo 3DS in November 17th of this year. So it's the typical, Pokemon adventure that comes out every year, and it seems to be following the Black and White 2 formula of being... I'm not quite sure if it's a sequel, or because they called it an alternative storyline, which makes me wonder if is it a sequel or are they retelling the events of Sun and Moon, but changing things up.
I honestly think they're just going to retell the events of Sun and Moon.
Yeah, that seemed to be the thoughts. There are some new things shown off, like there's a new fusion between the legendary Pokemon and then I don't actually know what the Pokemon's called. What is it?
It's Necrozma. They both, if you look at the actual trailer for both of them, both Solgaleo and Lunala have this weird black kind of carapace on them that looks very similar to the body of Necrozma, the weird black prism monster that is not an Ultra Beast but looks like one.
Okay, so he's taken over them, basically. And there were other things. There seems to be a Pikachu van, and we get Mimikyu and the Hedgehog-type Pikachu seem to have some kind of rock.
There was some shot of Lycanroc jumping over something.
Yeah.
Who knows?
There seems to be...
so many unanswered questions.
More Pokemon-based cutscenes, and more customization. I definitely saw some new customization options. But I guess the controversial thing is that it's not on the Switch, because obviously rumors were going about for ages, and some people were calling it for 3DS, some people were saying it would be for 3DS and for Switch, and then a few people were saying it would just be on 3DS, which is what it is, which I guess isn't so much of a surprise. I mean, Black and White and Black and White 2 both came out after 3DS was released for the original DS, but I think amidst rumors and all stuff, and Game Freak saying they're working on the Switch, everyone kind of expected a big HD Pokemon. And I think that's what I'm personally let down by, because Black and White 2 are some of my least favourite Pokemon games, because I didn't feel like they did enough new for me to justify playing them, even if it was a new story. If Sun and Moon, or Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon are just an alternative story, then it feels like even less motivation for me to get them. I'm worried I'm going to be burnt out again, and I don't have the gimmick that it's, a brand new HD shiny Pokemon, or it could use the Joy-Cons in some sort of way or anything like that. So I don't know, I feel less motivated by this.
Yeah, honestly, I poured over 200 hours into Pokemon Moon when I bought it. So I mean, if this Pokemon were for the Switch and I could finally leave my 3DS alone for a while, I mean, I'd be all over it, but the fact that it's on the 3DS only, it's honestly kind of a bummer. I'm not willing to pay up to get another version of a game I already played, especially when it's on a console that I'm just not that interested in anymore. I'm going to be focusing on the Switch these days, so I don't see myself buying it, personally.
First off, for me, I'm gonna actually disagree with you, NantenJex. Pokemon Black and White 2 are, I think, a great improvement over the first two games. While I liked the idea of doing the you can only play with new Pokemon thing, it's actually really neat in concept, but I found Unova to be a fairly boring region that the sequels improved upon a lot, but at the same time, that's kind of here nor there. Yeah, I'm a little bit let down, too, by this. I kind of get why Game Freak wouldn't want to do it, which is that, there are a lot of 3DS owners who purchase Sun and Moon, and maybe, they might not own a Switch, but at the same time, if it's not going to be that different, then there's not as much of a reason to get it again, except for the idea of it being in HD. For me, the big exciting possibility, which again is, like you two have said, isn't really much of a possibility, is whether alternate story means something dramatically different. Like, if it's some kind of crazy prequel involving, like, how the two legendaries got to Alola or whatever. But I'm not really convinced that's happening.
Yeah, that's the problem. Sun and Moon had a really good story, and I don't feel like it needs a new explanation and a new retelling. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see and find out if there's any more information.
Agreed.
But I'm personally, I'm disappointed in this as well. So does anyone have any other comments then, I guess?
On Sun and Moon or on any of the any of the games?
Well, on this news, on the news and stuff.
The Decidueye looks baller.
Yeah, if there's any more, I wonder if this affects his chance for Smash in any way.
I don't think, like, Sakurai necessarily will look at spin-off games, but he'll look at, like, the thing as a whole, and, I mean, who the hell knows?
Definitely shows the popularity of Decidueye.
Yeah.
It's got another leg to stand on,
Yeah,
at least.
exactly. So, But, yeah, any other thoughts then?
Well, we'll just have to wait and see whether Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon does enough different.
Yeah, I'm sure it will leak
That's all.
beforehand.
That's all I have to say.
I mean, there's definitely stuff they could do. Like, I love Sun and Moon a lot. Alola is probably my favorite region in the whole series, but, like, there's definitely a lot of stuff that they could do to better those games. Like, having some better post-game stuff would be good, and generally the director's cut versions are really good at that. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. There's definitely something that they could do. I'm not gonna necessarily jump out and get it, but they usually have those for things that are a lot more, like, imaginative that they couldn't do in the base one, like how Platinum and the Heart Gold games, the Johto remakes had all these interesting new things that they explored. But yeah, I'm a tiny bit let down.
Okay, guys, well, I think that probably wraps this whole discussion up then. So, for the people listening in at home, let us know what you thought of this Pokemon Direct and its announcements in the comments below. If you want to show us your support, you can start by liking this video and subscribing to the channel if you haven't already. It will help us to produce more content for all of you. And if you really like what you heard, you can support our Patreon. I'll put links to all this in the description below, as well as links for all of our social medias if you want to follow us individually or as a whole at All Source Gaming. Okay guys, well, with that, make sure you keep your sources in check, and have a nice day.